I had a banquet the other night here in Amarillo, Texas, and we had people at that banquet from Pheasants Forever, from Quail Forever, Ducks Unlimited. I mean, we were all pulling together because conservation for one animal is conservation for every animal.
Welcome to Backwoods Obsessions, the hunting podcast for everyone chasing game, big or small, in every season. Every week, we'll bring you affordable tips, practical hunting strategies, gear reviews, and conversations with expert guests who share knowledge you can trust without the hype. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode, and join a community that builds on the traditions of hunting and lives the hunt season after season. Tonight, we're excited to welcome someone who's dedicated his life to hunting, conservation, and carrying on our hunting traditions forward. Robby Taylor, Regional Director for the State of Texas National Wild Turkey Federation. Robby, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here. Maybe to just get started, you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into turkey hunting, how you got into the NWTF.
Yeah. What's crazy enough is kind of this one story is sort of a repeating trope throughout my life, I guess, about hunting in general and then turkey hunting. But my grandfather was an avid hunter. As he got older, he did it less and less, but he and I spent a lot of time together, either in the woods or on a crouched down behind a tree somewhere or on a lake with a fishing pole in our hands. But what really kind of got me into this job was I remember he and I went hunting. It was a spring turkey hunt in Texas. So I still remember the way the morning was. My grandmother would always get up with us in the morning, and so the house kind of had that smell of like bacon and coffee, like all grandparents' houses. And so my grandfather and I were going to go hunt down around the 4 Sixes ranch. He had a buddy with some land down there, and so we loaded up in the truck and headed down to that spot. And I remember the drive and the talk we had, and so we went out all day long. It was a kind of a misty day, it wasn't super nice. It was typical Texas spring, and we didn't shoot any turkeys that day. So I remember the truck ride on the way back. He was kind of like, "Well, man, I guess the turkeys didn't want to get shot today," and he was right. And and I look back at those times, and what I didn't know about that particular day is that was the last time he and I would go out together. He would pass not too long after that, and so and I couldn't go back in time. I thought a lot about this. I couldn't go back in time and tell him how much I loved him and how much I appreciated him. He taught me how to be a man out there in the woods and on the lakes. Taught me how to be patient and how to have strategy and how to think things through and to take care of the things that we were responsible for. And so since I couldn't go back in time and do that, when I saw this position come up for the NWTF, I thought, maybe I could be a part of helping create that for some people in the future. And so other granddads and dads and moms and granddaughters could get out and learn about conservation, learn about hunting, and sort of learn the same lessons that I did that I'm passing on to my kids. And so in a roundabout sort of way, that one hunt is what sort of led me into the NWTF. I've been involved with nonprofits my entire adult life, pretty much. I sat on some boards for the Boys and Girls Club of America, mentored a lot of young kids, and been a part of a lot of other nonprofits in some respect. And so the NWTF, as I was kind of winding down my career, I kind of wanted to find something I could spend the next 10 or 15 years at to make a difference at, so I could sort of end my career having made a difference somewhere, somehow in my life. And so that's sort of how I kind of got led into that.
Wow, that's great. I can really identify with that. Not too long ago, I took my youngest son on his first turkey hunt, right? Didn't get a thing. We're out in the middle. It's, right at dawn. We're getting them to gobble all over the place. You could hear them, right? You could hear them flapping down off the roost, but couldn't get them to come in. But it didn't really matter, right? It was the time that was spent together, right? It was about building a family tradition. It was about an experience together. Hopefully my son will remember that moment forever. Got some little videos and some pictures of him sleeping on on a turkey call, waking him up and going, "We got to go get them, they're out, they're waking," but I can wholeheartedly identify with that. I know
Sure.
JW's got kids too. Have you gone turkey hunting with your kids, JW?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
My middle boy now, he goes. He's like my wallet. Everywhere I go, he's right there. So
In your back
Right.
pocket.
That's right.
I thought he was going to say because he was spending whatever was in it. So,
There ain't nothing in it, so.
so Robbie, tell me, turkey hunting has evolved, I think, over many years, over the decades, right?
Sure.
And turkey populations, are changing. The climate in the different regions of the country are changing. What's the current state of turkey populations across the country right now?
I can speak more so, if you look at the USA as a whole, everything's looking great. Everything's up in some respect. Now, there are a few areas that they're kind of suspending the fall hunt just to kind of get some numbers back up. But
Mhm.
overall, from a perspective, there's turkeys in 49 states. I think Alaska is the only state that doesn't have turkeys in it. But from a perspective of the whole country, it's looking great. And in Texas, it's looking really well. Um, let's see, we had some current numbers this year. Uh, we went from last year 8.47 uh, uh, Jakes per 1,000 miles. We're at about 9.61 now, so that is going up. We had a good year, though. We had a great summer, nice, cool summer, a lot of rain. So the insect population was up. So when that insect population's up, all those other species, just like the turkey, they thrive. And so everything's looking really good from that perspective. And so, I mean, turkey hunting's kind of also had a bit of a renaissance, and so people are really starting to get back into it again and make it every bit as big as other game. And so, but if you want to be a turkey hunter, this is the great time to start. And the usual suspects: Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Florida, Alabama. Um, the turkey numbers look really, really great. So if you're going to turkey hunt, this is the year to do it.
You say it's a renaissance. Are you seeing like entire families like bringing turkey hunting into their family traditions? Or are you seeing just like a lot of guys really just kind of scoping it out for the first time hunters? Um,
It's
any
kind of
thoughts
both,
on?
really. Yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen it from both respects. For me, I hadn't turkey hunted for years before I got back into this job, and when I started doing it again, I realized how much I loved it. And so I see that uh, guys who are just wanted to undertake that hobby, they're doing that, and they're getting their kids and their wives, and I've seen a lot more ladies and kids out in the outdoors this year than I've seen in a
Nice.
while, because our cell phones and tablets and iPads have kind of kept everybody inside. And I think we're
Right.
starting to see some of the results of the negative results of that. And so people in general are getting back outside, and turkey hunting is just kind of a beneficiary of that.
Well, that's awesome. Where are we seeing wins? Or are there any many major challenges that still remain, in the sport, if you will?
I mean, there's always going to be challenges. I think what we're struggling with is education. Kind of like JW and I were talking earlier about. We'll get into this a little bit later with Henrietta. You kind of want to know where you are if you're an avid hunter. It's with deer hunters too. You want to know what the population is where you're going, and that way you're smart enough to let the 2 and 3 year olds kind of sit for another year, so you have
Mhm.
them next year. You have those toms next year. So it's about learning how the life cycle of a turkey is, and to know when the right time is to hunt those birds and when to let them sit for a year or two so they can be that big tom here in a couple of years. And so I think the biggest challenge is that. And the great thing is the internet and AI is really, it's revolutionized everything, including turkey hunting. And so if people were to take a little bit of time and to look some of that stuff up, and I think it'll improve their turkey hunting experience overall. So
Yeah, thank goodness for AI. I can actually get a picture of me holding a turkey instead of that, rabbit I shot with a limp. So yeah, but JW, I think that really resonates with some of the things that you were saying to me the other day. You got some good 8 point deer on your property, but you're like, I ain't touching them. It's time to just let them go another year or so. Let those populations really kind of grow. I think being able to understand how conservation really folds into this, right? It's land management, it's knowing what the populations and the life cycles are, really, to how to get in there, be successful, enjoy it, but make sure that it continues season after season after season, right?
sure,
Yeah.
that's absolutely right.
How does you're being the regional director of the NWTF, how do you guys step in to make a difference in those areas?
Man, the difference between the NWTF and a lot of other organizations is we're a federation and not a foundation. And there's a big difference between the two. A foundation's kind of a central overarching organization that's kind of has one central location. And although we do have a national headquarters and things like that, we understand that certain parts of the country are different than others. And so we've got wildlife projects from the East Coast to the West Coast, north to south, depending on what the needs of that particular habitat are. And we're really lucky, in the state of Texas, we've got Annie Farrell and Jason Harden as biologists who really stay on top of what the ecosystem needs. And kind of a sidebar. One thing that also introduced me to the NWTF is we had a major wildfire up in the
Oh, really?
plains of Texas a few years back, and it particularly affected my family. Two people were killed in those wildfires, and one of those people was my wife's first cousin. She was a truck
Really?
driver who just sort of got, stuck in between the fires and couldn't find her way out and wound up passing from her injuries. But one thing I really loved about the NWTF and some other organizations is they really stepped up to bring out, water and clothes and money and whatever people needed in those communities to sort of get
Mhm.
themselves recentered. The NWTF was a really big part of that. A lady named Kathy Braden, who runs our chapter down in Lufkin, really took the reins of that and tried to get things rolling to make a difference in that respect. So, we've got projects up in the Northeast. I was reading about one today up in New York, and it goes from New York down to Virginia, called the Forest and Flocks. And so it's kind of like most of our efforts, they're not a 1 year or 2 year, they could be decades long, just like
Mhm.
building anything else. It takes a long time to get the habitats situated for animals. And so this is a 10-year effort in Northeast Maine and Virginia. It's to impact the turkey habitat year round, to invest in research and improve the hunting support. And for the first time in a long time, we've got endowed professorships inside of colleges like the University of Georgia, Dr. Michael Chamberlain, University of Georgia. It's just a turkey-driven program. It's a program completely dedicated to the wild turkey. And so
Wow.
college kids are going to start getting a much earlier introduction to turkeys in that habitat through the college system. And so, there's some really great things up here in my area in the Great Plains. We have something called the waterways for wildlife, and I think it's something like 1,500 miles of rivers and 75,000 acres of habitat to get the livestock situated to kind of get rid of some invasive species. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing it on your end like we are here in Texas, but I think the raccoon population's up like 2,000% higher than it needs to be. The hog population's up 3,000% higher than it needs to be. And
Hogs
so they're eating
everywhere.
all the dove eggs, quail eggs, turkey eggs,
Yep.
and I call them land sharks because those hogs, they eat everything, And so it's about trying to get those invasive species taken care of. And so the great thing about a federation is we know that people in their areas know what they need. And that's why we have chapters and whatnot. Because even in Texas, we're so big, you could fit 16 states in the state of Texas.
That's right.
Every area is so different from the next. The Plains is different from Houston, and Houston's different from El Paso. And so all those areas know what they need. And that's why it's important to start chapters and build chapters in those towns. So.
How many do we have in the state of Texas? Is there like
Chapters, if I was looking at it right last, I think we have somewhere around 52 chapters. We had something before COVID happened, we had well over 70 chapters. And then COVID hit and kind of stopped the world, and we were a victim of that like everybody else. And so a lot of those chapters closed down. And so in the West Texas in particular, where I am, I got a buddy of mine who's got East Texas named Cody Van Pelt. He has the whole eastern half of the state. And
Mhm.
so we're just trying to get those chapters re-going again and get them raising money. And because we're an organization that's 100% funded by donations. And so maybe not 100%, we're pretty close, mostly funded
Mhm.
by donations. And so banquets and raffles and all that, those are really, really important for us.
now we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a little while.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put JW on the spot for a second. He's got some personal ties to the NWTF, if I remember correctly, right? With your dad.
Yeah, so my dad was the president in North Carolina back in the early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and they there literally was zero turkeys in in that part of
Wow.
up in the Appalachians, right? And um I think it was 80, 82, 83, 84. um, they started, and I literally opened the doors up on them, and we would release them,
Oh, wow.
and I mean they're everywhere now. I mean they're
Mhm.
plentiful. Um, but yeah, one of my good stories is spending time with Dick Kirby when he would come down and and stay down there with us. And it was I really like Dick Kirby. I still got some of the calls he give me. Um,
Yeah, in case
still
anybody
got
doesn't know
a
who Dick Kirby is, can you explain a little bit who he is?
Yeah. So Dick Kirby's the inventor of Quaker Boy calls. That's the
Mhm.
man himself.
Not Quaker
He
Oats.
Yep. Yep. So that's they've been around for a long time, and
Yep.
Mhm. Oh,
he was a super
I got
good
their box. I got their box
guy.
call right here. Quaker Boy right
There
there.
you
yeah,
go.
Yeah.
yeah. Mine's right
Yep.
here.
You got the same one?
and
I do.
and so he used to come down every year and stay for a week or two. He would come. He would drive from New York and stay for a week or two, and hunt and always come down when we had some kind of convention and stuff going on. You know, but it was good times, and that whole era back there in the 80s and stuff with all the turkeys that they were bringing in and turning loose and all that. I mean, it was, they knew what they were doing, and so turkeys are just plentiful. I mean, the numbers are really good now.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
And
it's so cool
So
how they do that, how they bring those birds in from, we may have birds this year coming from Maine, into Texas. So I think it's really cool how they
really?
transplant those. Yeah, isn't that cool? How they
Yeah.
transplant those birds all over the US depending on where these states need them. And just to see how the habitat works and how they come in. But like JW is saying, you have those states that never had a turkey, hadn't seen a turkey, all of a sudden they're everywhere. And so it's really cool to see them move those birds around like that. So it's
Yeah,
exciting.
I never
yeah,
would have thought of that. I in addition to turkey hunting, I really like to do waterfowl hunting. Sandhill crane and
Sure.
ducks and so forth. And you think about the flyways and how they migrate, but I never would have thought of a turkey doing the same thing. You think of the Grand Slam, and you got these regional species, and
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have thought of them kind of migrating into different areas like that. That's
Well,
pretty
and
cool.
sometimes even that like this migration, I may have misworded, it's not exactly natural. Sometimes we kind of coax them along the
Yo,
way, or,
right.
or we
get
give
in the
them a
pen.
ride, they'll
Sure.
hitchhike a ride all the way down here. So,
Right.
but it's neat how you can just take those. And I love how, and Texas has real Easterns now, like Texas
Mhm.
Easterns, because that species has just taken off and flourished. And so now you've got three different, you know, types of turkeys here, plus hybrids. Now we have hybrids between different
Yeah.
different types of turkeys. So it's neat how over time things and the habitat sort of moves and changes to accommodate that.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
so.
so
Oh,
so
God.
something else that that leads into that, how the turkeys and all the migration is, um where I'm from, up in the mountains up outside of Asheville. They had elk up there years, hundreds of years ago, right?
Hmm.
Well, now the elk population's back. I mean, they are everywhere. They brought them in at Cataloochee, introduced them back into Cataloochee.
Wow.
Now they're everywhere. I mean,
Well, that's good
you
because they're
know,
tasty.
it, yeah,
Yeah,
but
right.
unfortunately, they don't have a season up there for them. But at some point, I mean, at some point, but I mean, that just goes to show you. I mean, the migration from Cataloochee and Cherokee, right now they're all the way over. I mean, they're seeing them in Greenville, South Carolina. I mean, just all down up and through that whole region up through there. I mean, they're just, they've just spread,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so, same with the turkeys. I mean, you may put it, like we turn turkeys loose on Pisgah, um Pisgah Mountain and stuff like that. But 2 years from now, you may have turkeys that same bunch may have moved, 10 miles down, or 30 miles down, and then they're just constantly moving, and they're just migrating, reproducing, and, and so now, I mean, they're plentiful up there. I mean, they're standing in the road when you go up through there, driving, and, so
No.
it's, it's good to see that that they've took a hold, and the turkey population's where it needs to be, and still producing, growing every year. So
Yeah, they're always standing on the side of the road, like right after the last hour of hunting season, and they know it, right? And they're looking at you like,
See you,
you
fellas. See
you
you
can't pull
next
the
year.
trigger.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, right.
It's an hour past sunrise. Um,
That's funny.
so Robby, let me ask you. One of the
Yep.
things that when JW and I first met, right? I kind of explained to him that I am very much a learning hunter, right? And I think all hunters are. It's you
Oh
have to
yeah.
continually learn, right? But I'm more of a newer hunter, right? And I think I had, when I first started, several misconceptions of turkey hunting when I first tried it, right? Now that I've been out and done it multiple times, I have a much better concept of how the process works and everything. What are some common misconceptions that you may hear from people in your membership, about turkey hunting? What are they saying to you that you're like, that's not quite right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of old wives' tales like, best time to hurt turkeys is in the morning. It is and isn't. It just depends on how the day goes. Some people think that before they get out and turkey hunt, they got to be the best caller in the world, and so they'll go invest money in all these really, really expensive calls, which is great. If that's going to be your
Mhm.
hobby. But you don't. I mean, the turkeys don't have like like how we look at like I don't know Michael Bolton and say that guy's a great singer. Turkeys
Yeah.
don't look at that and go, huh, that guy doesn't sound quite. I mean, they're birds, or you know. So
Right.
I mean, you don't have to be the best caller in the world. You don't have to be like the Michael Bolton of turkey callers. You just gotta practice and get out there and give it a try. I mean, you know, turkey hunting is indicative, like we were talking earlier, it's about a lot of other things in life. You gotta know when to be aggressive, when to lay back. You can
Mhm.
call too much. When you got that bird coming in and you just keep chirping away, that's not necessarily a good thing. So through experience and time, you kind of learn how to develop your pattern. And if I could give anybody any advice about turkey hunting is when you invest in your decoys, get a good looking decoy. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have seen those new ones by Avion X, but they are just
Those, those,
spectacular.
those are the ones
And
I
I
have.
mean, yeah, those are great turkey decoys. And turkeys can see really well, they can smell really well, they can hear really well. I mean, they have that huge field of vision. Make sure your camo's tight. I mean, bright colors just scare them birds away. And so, I mean, take some time, research it, but there's some old wives' tales that just aren't true. Sometimes the best time to shoot the birds in the middle of the afternoon. So, I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions that have just kind of been handed down from year to year to year. But I mean, just go out there and enjoy your. It's the whole point of it is to enjoy yourself and relax. And I know you guys know I'm not a prolific hunter like a lot of people are, but I mean, just that feeling when you hear that drum and you hear that bird coming in and
Yeah.
how that feels. I mean, you can't really explain that to anybody. And so to get out there and give it a go, and you're going to fail at first, you just got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and get back on the horse. Try it again next year and try it again next year. And sooner or later, you're going to be better at it than you know. So, I mean,
Yeah.
just enjoy yourself, have a good time while you're doing it.
Yeah, I think probably the single most important lesson I've learned in turkey hunting, and I think JW and I have talked about it quite a bit, is just sit still.
Yeah.
Don't move. Let them
Yep.
come to you. They'll come. Just sit still. Don't make a lot of movement.
you should try it from my point of view sometime, my field of view, I should say, with a big camera, with your phone,
Oh,
with the calls, all at the same time.
you're trying to
Yeah.
film all at
Right.
once. Yeah.
That's a
Oh
lot
my.
of factors to manage there, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And do the call, right?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
call. You know.
Yeah, I had a
So,
friend of mine this
So,
year. She runs my chapter down in Decatur. Super great lady. She works for Texas Parks and Wildlife, I think. She is just when it comes to the state of Texas, I mean, she is just fantastic. She's always running. We have a program called the Jakes program, which is for kids, juniors acquiring knowledge and ethics and sportsmanship. And she's either running a Jakes hunt or a women's event to teach them about And she was telling a funny story this year about how she was out calling to choose turkey hunt one afternoon and was out calling, and she had birds chirping at her from both sides of the where she was sitting. And so she was watching these jakes come in from both sides, and, they said she had those Avion X decoys kinda set up over those really cool decoys, and so the 2 jakes were coming in, and all of a sudden, the tom started to come in around the jakes because he noticed those decoys. And so
Oh
she
yeah.
doesn't know what to do. She's kinda sitting there up against a tree trying to figure out where it is, and she hears that gobble, you know? And so she's watching this tom come in, and he sees those Avion X, decoys and gets a little excited, you know? And so he walks over there, and he's, he kinda strutting his stuff to show these ladies what he's all about, and so he gets up there, and he pushes on that Avion X decoy, and it spins one way, and he doesn't know what to think about it. And she's trying not to laugh this whole time watching this bird try to figure out this decoy. And, I think she got so focused in on that tom that those 2 jakes got away, and then she realized what she was doing and started to pay attention to tom, and then he got away. But just the whole point of watching that tom come in and try to mount that Avion X decoy was just she said it was fantastic. So, it was a
It's
good
awesome when you
story,
see
right?
those wings beating on your
Yeah,
decoy,
right.
right? Right. It's awesome. And that really leads us into like a really good section here is, part of the reason why I got into hunting is I wanted something else to connect with my kids. They're on a computer all day at school. They come home, they get on their Minecraft and Roblox or whatever else of, social media of the day, right? But they're always on a computer, they're on a tablet, they're on a screen, they're on a phone, and I needed to get them outside. I need them to understand that there was a bigger world out there and that there is a wealth of interaction with nature that is worthwhile to really be a part of, right? And so now my kids are really starting to like get into it. They're starting to get into deer hunting, they've been turkey hunting, they've been hog hunting. um you know w- do you have any thoughts or any feelings about family and youth and traditions, especially now that you're really heavily involved with the NWTF? Is there any strategies? I think you were talking about some programs that you guys have been putting
Sure.
together.
Yeah, it's we've got I talk about this at my banquets. We've got a generation of young people that are really struggling. And
Mhm.
so, those of us who grew up in the '70s and the '80s and the '90s, I mean, we have developed a kind of a level of resilience that this younger generation doesn't have. And so, in order to get them to sort of reconnect and live lives on life's terms, you've got to get them outside. And, there's a lot of organizations that use slogans or mission statements, and sometimes I can buy into them and sometimes I can't. But when I saw the NWTFs this year, it really it spoke to me unlike a lot of other ones had. And it was a nation united by the life-changing power of the outdoors. And I've seen it happen firsthand. My wife, she's an angel, and she's out changing the world on a daily basis. And if she's not working with kids who have struggled and been abused, she's working with the homeless, or
Mm.
she's volunteering at a hospice, or she's out doing something to change the world in that respect. And I've seen the outdoors be able to do the same thing, especially to kids who are in foster and adoption. And it's when we talk about chapters at some point. This is so important for chapters to dial into their areas and to see if there's so many kids who wind up in foster homes or an to be adopted, to give them a chance to get outside and hold a shotgun or hold a fishing pole. It'll change their life. It'll flip a light switch on in their brain that they didn't even know existed. We've got so used to instant gratification with our phone. You want a song? Look it up right now. You want to watch a movie? It comes right now. And this will teach them patience and to try to live life and deal with life's problems as they come and they happen. And our Jake's program's really great about that. It gives a chance to get kids outside, get a shotgun in their hands, or get a rifle in their hands, whatever the case may be, because we do a lot of deer hunts too. And get them exposed to what it feels like to be out there and to do that. And not only that, make them understand that they're responsible to make sure that happens again and again and again. And so
Yeah.
if we don't get the younger generation dialed into this, all the work that we do as we get older will just kind of go away. And so it's so important that we figure out how to pass it down to those kids and get them a chance to have a passion for the outdoors the way that we have a passion for the outdoors. And so, if you get a chance in some way, shape, or form, you don't, I think some people are under the large misconception that in order to make change in their life, they've got to send money to Ethiopia or they've got to do something like that. And the truth is, you pick up your telephone and on your contact list, there's somebody in there right now that if you call them and said, "Hey, let's go hunting tomorrow. Bring your son. Let's go out and go hunting tomorrow." It'll change their life. And you can do it
Absolutely.
today. You can do it first thing in the morning. You don't have to wait. And so, that program, that Jake's program, I've seen it firsthand how it'll flip a light switch on in their brain and they'll understand, wow, there's something bigger in life than me, and I can be a part of it. And so it's important to get those kids outside, especially kids who may not have that chance or that choice any other way. So,
Right. I mean, just being able to connect with those kids and give them a different path, through these types of traditions is just life changing for them, and I'm sure for those that are involved with it, just it's got to be an overwhelming feeling of gratitude to be a part of something like that. So
it puts a
thank you
gas
to
in
your
your
wife
gas
for
tank.
doing stuff like that. I mean,
Man,
oh my gosh.
she's a rock star, man, and so, I was kinda at that point in my life that every job that I'd really ever had was about making money, And
Mhm.
so I'll be 50 this year, and so things are kinda starting to wind down for me, and I realized, I wanna be a part of something that's a little bit bigger than myself, and that's why I got involved with the NWTF, and it's been incredibly rewarding to know that tomorrow I can get up and do something and it's gonna make a difference or help somebody else make a difference somewhere else, and I encourage people to get involved however they can, so
Yeah. One of the things too that I think is really great for these kids to learn is that there is a food chain. Where does your food come from? How do you process, it's not your food shouldn't just come out of the ground in a McDonald's wrapper, and in a, and deep fried and battered and so forth, right? It's, there's life there, right? And there's important lessons in that. Not every kid has to know how to process a deer from beginning to end, right? Or, be able to skin a turkey, but to know that there's more to the cycle of life, right? And that they are a part of that, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that. JW,
absolutely.
you do a lot with your kids. How have you involved your kids in hunting over the years?
Well, I mean, I I don't give them opportunity. I give them every opportunity they have, to say no, but then I don't give them the opportunity to say no. You know,
Right.
I just take them. I mean,
Right.
I make it fun, right? Um, I'll give you so over the summer, right? So I have the oldest one. He's not that much into hunting, right?
Mhm.
He'd rather play on the computer. The middle one, he's all about everything: bull riding, riding horses, motorcycles, hunting, fishing. It doesn't matter. But then my little girl, she wants to tag along. So she's 2 now, and so this summer, we were going to go put a stand up, and I told him, I said, "Come on," I said, "let's get the 4-wheeler. We'll load everything up. Well, they all take a part, so each one of them has to get something to put on the 4-wheeler, and so we go driving through the back of the property back here, and we get way back to the clear cut, and I told him, I said, "Now we're gonna put this stand up right on this clear cut right here." Well, the boy stands up, Connor, and he says, "There's a deer," and I mean, eyes get this big, and all of a sudden there's 3 more, and my little girl sees it and she starts hollering and screaming, and I'm trying to tell her shh, and I mean they're just, I mean, the world's excited, right? I mean, just I mean
That's right.
everything was just so excited. So we got the stand put up for a week straight, right? For a week straight. After that, every day they wanted to go to that clear cut to see if they seen deer. So I kept explaining to them, like, listen, there's a season that comes in and we're going to be going back there, and you're going to take your rifle, and that's what we're going to do. And so, that season's almost here, because unfortunately they can't pull a bow back yet. He's 9, but he doesn't weigh but 50 pounds, so he can't get that bow back. But that he's got a he's got a little 22 250 that he can
Oh, that'll do
squeeze
it.
the trigger on. So
That's right.
but yeah, I mean, I just involve them. I don't give them an opportunity. Like, you know, I see this a lot in parenting, and maybe it's right. Maybe I just do everything wrong. I don't know. But they ask if they want to go do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, do you want to do this? Well, if the kid don't want to do it, he's going to say no. I mean, give him the opportunity to ask him, does he want to go to school? Well, he's going to tell you no. If he can lay in the bed, and watch TV or play video games, he's not going to go to school. Right. And so, I ask them, and whatever their response is, they still going to go.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I mean, that's a
but
good
I make
point.
it fun, and we have fun. You know,
Mhm.
and that's that's just how I do it. So
Well, I think it's an important point. I
just
think, right, and it's just some of the things you were saying earlier, Robbie. Is it's easy to get enveloped in the distractions of the modern world, with all of the instant gratification things that are out there now, right? What you're doing, JW, is you're kind of forcing an interaction that they can say at a later point, I didn't like that. Okay, then maybe we're not going to do it again. But when that deer walks by and all of a sudden the outside world comes to life and they are excited, now you've given them a memory, you've shared that with them. There's a
oh yeah,
potential that they're going to continue to go back day after day, or, they're going to start to build on that. And it may, maybe they'll go through a period where they don't do it right away, but they'll, maybe when they're a teenager, they'll go, maybe I want to go out with dad and do a deer hunt, or go blast a couple turkeys. I think it's important, and it's I think that's where organizations like the NWTF, Robbie, really shine, right? Because you guys have a mission. You guys are doing a lot of conservation impacts here. Maybe you can explain a little bit, maybe what our listeners don't know about the WTF. Maybe you can explain the mission and what you guys do at a little bit of a deeper level.
Sure. I mean, we're like everybody else, we're a team, and so there are so many aspects to what our organization does. I mean, from the there's certain limitations to what we're allowed to do, but I mean, and we're in Washington trying to make sure that legislation goes a particular way, and to at least put our opinion out there to say, hey, you may want to think about that when this new initiative came up this last year for the U.S. government to sell public land, and for that money instead of going back into conservation or back into the public lands, it went into the general coffers, and most people didn't like that, and me included. And so it gave us a chance for us to be out there in Washington and say, hey, you need to think this through, because because once you sell public land, you never get it back. And
Right.
so, I mean, and it's important. And I'm in a state in Texas that's 98% private. And so any public land that we have here, it's very important to make sure that that's maintained. And so from that aspect of being in Washington to our district biologists, like I was mentioning earlier, Jason and Annie, I mean, they are in the habitat making sure not only that things happen. I mean, we're going to sit down for a budget meeting on Friday to talk about getting GPS units to put on those turkeys so we can track to see,
Wow.
how they move, and to use technology to our advantage to see how how far they go, when they travel, when they don't, to see uh, you know to see what their behavior is when then nobody's looking, and so
Right.
uh, there's a there's a lot of a lot of different pieces that kind of make the clock turn, and then you have people like me who my number one job, my only job is to be out in the community, starting chapters, raising money. And I mean, I get a chance to hunt turkeys a lot, but I'll go hunt money just about every day that I can. And if it's not somebody's money, it's their talent or their time. And if if you want to get
Sure.
involved in a chapter or something like that, or even in some other organization, I mean, you don't have to have a bunch of money in your pocket to do that. You just have to have a little bit of time and some perspective that you can offer, or some sort of talent somewhere. If you can
Mhm.
teach a kid how to break down a rifle and clean it and put it back together again, I mean, you're part of whatever of the rest of whatever all the rest of us are doing. So there's a lot of pieces like that that come into our organization, and probably a lot of other wildlife organizations. I had a banquet the other night here in Amarillo, Texas, and we had people at that banquet from Pheasants Forever, from Quail Forever, Ducks Unlimited. I mean, we are all
Wow.
pulling together because conservation for one animal is conservation for every animal. You fix the
Right.
habitat for the turkey, it's going to fix it for the dove and for the deer and for whatever else might be there. And so we work side by side with a lot of those organizations too. We're in colleges. We've got guys. We have a one program called the Wheeling Sportsman Program where we help wounded vets or somebody who may have a physical disability where they couldn't normally get outside and hunt. We get them outside. We figure out ways to do that. And so, and I
Wow.
think this upcoming deal in Henrietta with Josh Carney, we'll talk about in a minute. I think that's going to be crucial to making sure that that program thrives and to get those guys a chance to get outside. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and we've got some really sharp people in the organization that figure out how to pull them all together and make it run in the same direction. So.
Wow, that's great. You know, speaking of Josh Carney, and you had the opportunity last year, and I know JW did too, to go to Turkey Fest in 2025 in Henrietta, Texas, right? Clay County. Um,
Yep.
Turkey Fest is really becoming a pretty big event here in Texas, Robbie. And maybe you can explain a little bit from your perspective what makes it unique, or what opportunities lie there for some of our listeners to be able to engage with it.
Sure. I mean, Henrietta's a really cool spot anyway, because I think it's kind of the last part of Texas before the humidity really kicks in.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of in that, it's on that nice line right there where it's not too
Right.
much yet. But the people there are, I mean, they were fantastic. It was my first year to go. What I didn't realize when I got there was how many people they brought in from all over the place, and I got a chance to meet JW for the first time and spend some time with them and those other teams that came in. But it was really neat to watch all those ranchers in that area and other people kind of pull together to figure out how to make this Turkey Fest happen. And so it was neat. I'd never been really in a place to see a turkey contest quite like that. And so I think the most rewarding part, like we were talking about earlier, was watching those kids bring in those birds. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think a kid wound up winning the whole thing with the biggest bird at one point. A real young kid won that
It did.
contest. And so it was really cool to see that. But I mean, that is a community that is turkey centric, man. And so
Mhm.
whether they see it or not, I call them the turkey capital of Texas. I know JW does too. And so it's a neat little fest, and so it's going to be neat to watch it grow and watch what they pull in to make that happen. And they've got people all over the country that come in to sort of make that go. So.
Yeah. JW, you've been becoming more and more involved with, helping that organization pull that event off. Maybe you can explain a little bit what hunters and families can expect at the 2026 event in April, I
Yeah.
believe.
So it's kind of unique because they give a um b- so they have a couple of different divisions, right? So they have a pro team division, which is for um most of the people's had either did have TV shows on Pursuit, Outdoor Channel, stuff like that. Big. It seems now that the majority of people is moving more to digital, so they have stuff on the digital side, but they have the pro teams come in and they hunt for what they call the Turkey Fest World Championship. And so it's all pro teams. So these people that come in, these teams that come in, I mean, they're they're deadly. We'll just say that. I mean, there turkeys are
Feathers
not
everywhere.
safe. There's turkeys are not safe. But that's a real good thing. The pro teams support the community and support the Chamber of Commerce there, and everything. But then on the flip side of that, they have, and this is throughout the whole state of Texas, they have what they call the Battle of the Beards that you can join. It's I believe it's a $50 entry fee. The turkey can be taken anywhere in the state of Texas, right?
Nice.
And it's $1,000 payout for the winner of that. And so they have the Texas game wardens and a biologist, which the Texas game wardens do all the measurements. They take all the weight. The biologist takes the measurements of the spurs, the beard, and they whoever has the biggest between the combination of beard, weight, and spur length is who's going to win. And so that that itself brings in quite a few people, and being that you can hunt anywhere in the state of Texas, right? And it's not limited to just one certain species of turkeys. It's any turkey. So since like what Robby alluded to earlier, there's 3 different species there now of of the breed. So it's neat on that aspect. On the other side of that, they also have a junior division for the Battle of the Beards.
Nice.
For the kids. They also cater a lot to the Texas Youth Hunters Association. They will be on site next year, along with the turkey calling contest that we put on for the first time this year, which, we had a ton of kids, and them kids just love that thing, and once again, next year coming up for 2026, we will be donating a shotgun, a brand new shotgun to the youth winner. So that's something for them to look forward to. We give one away this year, and the young man who won it was just ecstatic. So you have the youth, you have the turkey calling contest for all ages and kids and adults. You have the Battle of the Beards. Then you have the pro teams, which we alluded to earlier. We'll have Spook Span, which is
Nice.
huge in the hunting industry. Brian Stevenson, which is very big in the hunting industry. Josh Carney, Son of the South. Most people know who he is. He will be there. You'll have Hunting with Soldiers will be there. I believe Mojo Outdoors were there this year. You have several teams that will be there. We're trying to grow this thing and get some more big name pro teams that want to come in and battle for this world championship. Because there's something that Texas does that nobody else does, but you win this great big custom belt buckle. And I mean, they go all out. I mean, this thing is nice, right? I mean,
Everything's bigger in Texas.
It's engraved with their logo and, world championship. And, so I mean, it is a great, event. But also for the Battle of the Beards, right? And that $1,000 that you win, you also win a belt buckle, that same, engraved belt buckle. But then they also have a cook-off at the same time, right? So this cook-off is teams. All these teams come in from all over the country, and they do brisket and ribs. There's several different classifications that they have, but that thing is a $10,000 payout for the winner of that. And so
I got some
last year, the year before last, I judged. I sat in and judged on that. And I eat till I just couldn't eat no more.
So come hungry is what I'm hearing.
It's it is. But they have this thing set up, and it's they hold it around the town square, around the courthouse, and anyone that's never been to Henrietta, the courthouse is a huge staple, of the community, and I mean that thing is old. And it's just full of history and,
Yep.
and that, but it's a great event. One of the biggest things that I think that really a lot of people doesn't know about is on Saturday night when they do the awards ceremony, there's a silent auction, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
in that silent auction, you've got, I mean, they had an African safari trip this past year that was sold. But you have guns, all kind of hunting supplies. There is a ton of stuff that's there at that silent auction. That I mean, it's there to be bidded on.
And you
And
can win a pro team guided hunt too, right?
so at the end of this event, they will auction off these pro teams for a half-day guided hunt on Sunday morning, right? So if there's anybody who's ever wanted to go hunt with Spook Span or Josh Carney or any of them, I mean, all you got to do is show up and be there, right? And
Nice.
and you have to buy a ticket. That's the thing. You have to buy a ticket to this event, and that ticket includes dinner, right? Which is always good, but it includes the dinner, and then you have access to the silent auction, and then to the auction off of the pro teams, which these will be they're all recorded, right? So it will be put out there for the viewing audience to see at some point after after it's all done. But just a great event, very exciting, very family orientated and friendly. So I mean they really cater to the youth and stuff. It's it's just a great event. People really need to get involved and look at it and put it on the calendar to come out. And it'll be the second week of April.
I think one of the neat things about that town is their Chamber of Commerce it's a caboose, right? Train caboose.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. It's right there to center of town. It's pretty cool to see.
It's just a caboose sitting in the middle of the grass. I mean,
And I think that's where they do like all the weighing and everything for the turkeys.
Everything is right there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. And the old Masonic Hall is right across the way from it, like you and I were talking about earlier. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So if I had to like say, Robby, things have changed over the years and how things are evolving with turkey hunting. If you had to put on your magic hat, and look in your crystal ball here, what do you think turkey hunting is going to look like in the next 10 or 15 years? Are we all going to be shooting, AI ammo and, or, virtual turkeys, or, what's the plan? What do you foresee for the future of turkey hunting?
well, I think it's going to be probably 10 times bigger than it is now, and so that's where it's going to, if you're a hunter, this is why it's going to be really important for you to start building those relationships with people who have the turkeys and who know where those turkeys are, and especially people who have down here in Texas who have private land. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've been so lucky that even though as time's gotten better, guns have gotten better, ammo's gotten better. I mean, things have gotten a lot better. Some things sort of never change. And I think that's kind of the thing I like about turkey hunting. But yeah, every year you see new stuff. One thing I've been really impressed with the last few years is that TSS ammo, And so Jason Lonsberry, who owns Apex, they found that they figured that TSS
That's
ammo
what I
out.
shoot.
Yeah, he got a chapter down in the hill country. It's just, it may be a little pricier than other stuff, but it's worth it. I mean, there's going to be some really cool innovation, I think, in regards to that. And I mean, you've seen with these new sights, this new sighting stuff, this thermal sights, and the stuff that they have now. They could see over stuff and around stuff and through stuff. And so I can't even imagine it's going to look like, probably Predator, like,
Yeah.
Well,
Well, one of the great things,
shoulder, and
Yeah.
I mean,
We're all gonna be wearing, armor and stuff, right?
yeah, right. And
Instead of
so,
a
yeah,
ghillie
you're gonna
suit.
yeah, you won't even need a ghillie suit. You'll just be invisible now, like that Harry Potter deal they
Right.
put on.
Oh, right.
You'll just be
Nice.
invisible from this point forward. So who
That's
knows
awesome.
what they're gonna.
That's
So,
right.
but I'm really hoping that even though as times change and stuff like that changes, I mean, I hope the whole tradition of how it came about and how it is. I really hope that remains because that's what makes turkey hunting what it is. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you bring up an interesting point is that, I shoot Apex. In fact, last year I was able to take down 2 toms in one shot because of at 70 yards, no less,
it's
right?
amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing stuff, right? But you don't need it. It is not a requirement, right? You
No,
you,
you
you
don't
can
need it
go
with
out
it.
there
Yeah.
with grandpa's old
Yep.
12 gauge, right? With standard Remington ammo, right? Nothing crazy, just a turkey load.
That's exactly right. It's really up to you how advanced you want to make it.
Right.
And I still have an old 16 gauge Winchester that I've used since I was a kid. I still use it. It gets harder to find the shells for it, but I still use it.
Yep.
So I mean,
Yep.
you
Where
don't
where
have to
I
That's
have
what
that
find
I
fancy stuff. Go ahead.
that's what I use when I do carry a gun.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't. It seems like I'm doing more filming of somebody else, but I have my granddaddy's old Ithaca double barrel 16 gauge
nice.
that will
Yep.
literally knock your head off.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
This
God,
was the
that
same
thing is
way.
rough.
Yeah.
But that's what I've shot. I mean, for years.
Yep. Well, but like I
Is just
think
that old single. Is just that old double barrel 16 gauge. I think it's a 20 27 27 model. It's built in 1927.
oh my god.
Wow.
It's old.
But the fact that
and
you get to
I mean
hunt with that, right? It's
it
that
still
passed on history.
shoots. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was it's been through my great granddaddy, my granddaddy, my dad, me. I
Yeah,
mean,
and then one of your kids after you, I'm
oh
sure.
yeah,
Yep. That's
yeah,
exactly right.
yeah. I mean,
That's right. Pass it
and
along.
technology's there, and absolutely benefit from it every which way you possibly can,
Sure.
That's right.
but it doesn't necessarily take that,
Right.
That's
I
absolutely
mean,
right. It's
Just
not a
makes it a
requirement.
little bit easier sometimes.
it
So
just makes it easier, right?
And I'll give you an example.
it,
My little girl is only 8 years old, and my son is only 11, right? But he's super thin, small guy, right? But he shoots a 410. Well, 410 Apex ammo gives you more range. It gives you more,
it
just a
does.
little bit more to make you a little bit more successful, or give that opportunity to be more successful than a standard
Yep.
410 load, right? I think a lot of us start on a 20 gauge. Well, I'm sorry, a 20 gauge is not going to cut it for my little ones, right? But they want to be out there. So whatever I can do, I think that's where you balance technology and those traditions, right? And
Sure.
and I think that's the key, right? You don't have to have the best and greatest of everything. I mean, I shoot you know, a fairly expensive, gun because that's my hobby and that's my love, my
Right.
passion,
Right.
right? And do I need to? No. It's many regards. I'd like to have JW's Ithaca because there's more meaning behind it,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
well, it's kind of like the topic we got on with camouflage. I mean, the camouflage industry is, I mean, it's just revolutionized into,
Yep.
I mean, it's unreal. Myself, I mean, I still wear, like, I have this piece of cloth that I've had for, I know, 25 years. And, it looks like I've got it tied up like an old bandito, and I just pull it up over my face, and I mean, I just sit still, right? I mean, that's what I
Just
tell
sit
everybody. I
still.
mean,
That's right.
you just sit still, and they're like, well, I've got a skeeter biting me, and they're over here, and I'm like,
Sit still.
let that son of a gun just keep sucking blood and get bigger and bigger. I'm
No,
not moving, I'm not
Nice.
moving, like, but it's all the same. I mean, utilize technology. I mean, it's just like our AI stuff. I mean, we utilize it, right, and use it. Is it necessary? No, everybody's done it for hundreds of years now and never used it, right? It just makes stuff easier,
Yeah.
and by all means, I mean, work smarter, not harder,
Well, and I think
but
that's it. Is don't confuse making things easier with degrading the quality that you spend with family and the experiences
Right.
when you're out there. Right.
Yeah, learn how to
right,
mix and match. Keep some of the old, bring in some of the new, just
That's
learn how to
right.
that's
figure
right.
it out.
Yep. That's
Yep,
absolutely right.
yep.
Did I talk over your day job? I'm sorry if I did.
No, you're fine, man.
Yep.
You're totally fine.
So Robbie, as we're starting to come to the end here, and I want to give you the opportunity. And I know we didn't talk about, but if I had to give you a shameless plug, the opportunity to put one out there, this is your moment. This is I'll let you say whatever you want to say about the
Moment I've
NWTF.
been waiting for. Yeah.
That's
I'll
right.
tell you,
So
it,
make checks payable to
here,
Robby Taylor at
we'll start there.
yeah.
No, what I would say is, here's what I could use the most, and here's what we need the most at the NWTF. We need chapters, and we need people. And I don't want you to think that you have to be a turkey hunter to start a chapter or run a chapter. You don't. You just have to have. I've got a lady, like I was talking about down in Lufkin earlier. She's not a hunter, but she loves the conservation aspect of it. And so she throws a big banquet every year in order to contribute that way. I got a guy who's running my chapter in Fort Worth right now. Not a huge turkey hunter. He's a big deer hunter. He's part of Buck Ventures and some of that other stuff. But I mean, he's got a passion for hunting and for conservation and for making a difference for the future. There's an old saying that I read it somewhere and I can't remember what it was. The world becomes a better place when old men plant trees, the shade of which they will never sit under. Yeah, it's kind
Right.
of that way. And we've got to put these phones and these tablets down, put it down and unplug, get outside and make a difference and make things better for the next generation. Because if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. And it's
Right.
kind of like, if you ever like watch an old person fall in the airport, everybody's always like, they're kind of looking to see if someone's going to help that old person up. And so everybody sort of starts to do something and then they stop and look around to see if they're going to help that old person up. So they're always like, and then nobody winds up helping the person up. It's kind of
Right.
the same way with this. If you think that everybody else is going to do it, it's just not going to get done. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist or anything to get this thing started. You just have to have a passion for making a difference. And I don't know if you guys, I'm a Christian, and a lot of what I do, it's because I take my responsibility that God gave me. He gave me the dominion over the animals and over the plants, and I'm supposed to make sure that those stay thriving and they maintain and they continue to grow and get bigger and better. It's the same thing with
Yep.
us. You got time, talent, or treasure. Just commit it in some way, shape, or form. And you'll make a difference. But we need a lot of help starting chapters, getting things rolling. It only takes 2 or 3 people to get the ball rolling with that. And if you can get a 50 or 60 or 80 people together and have a party once a year, you can run a chapter. And so
Right.
that's the most important thing that we need right now. That's where the lion's share of our funding comes from, is from our banquets. And so every state's going to be different. Texas passed a bunch of laws this year about how we can utilize text and raffles and emails and all that kind of marketing. So it's going to change how we approach things this year. The in-person banquet is going to be the bread and butter for the state, because the state is kind of regulated how we can use texting and email. And so, we need people to start chapters, and all we need is someone who's just got the desire to do it. I don't care if you haven't been turkey hunting in 20 years or never been. If you want to
Right.
get outside and change the world and change your community, this is where we need you. So,
That's great. And maybe you can just give a little insight as to what people can expect out of those banquets. What
oh
is
man,
it
they're
sit
great.
down and
We
have
had
the
one.
big plate of food and go
Yeah,
comatose for a few minutes afterwards, or
we this last week, it wasn't the biggest banquet that I'd done, but the food was great. The people were great.
mm,
And, there weren't a lot of people there, but we all got together and figured out what the banquet needed to do to at least break even and get things started.
gotcha.
And, sometimes it's not going to be, and it's just like this turkey fest. It's going to take years to build your
Mhm.
chapter and time and banquets and mistakes. And your first banquet may lose money. It may make $100,000. You never know. But, you show up, you register. There's a live auction. There's in-person raffles. There's door prizes, and
Nice.
our gun of the year this year was a Benelli SB3 20 gauge Rob Roberts special, which is a
Cool.
beautiful shotgun. And
Absolutely.
so I mean, we've got some really nice Franke. They gave us this year a 6.5 PRC, which was a beautiful rifle. And so I mean, we've got some really nice stuff that just the NWTF has. A friend of mine won. I've been trying to win this shotgun all year. I figured out a way to get a hold of it, and I'm willing to bet this is probably a gun that TriStar makes just for us. And it's TriStar shotgun that's got both a 410 barrel and a 20 gauge barrel. It's interchangeable, comes with
Uh,
different chokes, and a friend of mine won it, and I called him. He had left and didn't realize he had won. I called him. I'm like, "Hey man, I hate to break it to you, but you won the coolest gun in the room." And he was like, "What?" And so he turned around and came back, and so yeah, it was a good time, and every banquet's like that. Some banquets, they have different themes. They have live music. I mean, you know what your town needs. You know what your area needs, and so the best caterer in your area and the best entertainment and all that. You can make it whatever you want to make it, keep it as simple or as elaborate. The whole point is that we're all together raising money for conservation. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's how to further the cause,
absolutely.
Um, Robby, it has been a distinct pleasure having you on the show tonight, and thank you for sharing that passion, your knowledge, your vision for the future of hunting. I think for everyone listening, we want to make sure that you're checking out Robby's work with the National Wild Turkey Federation on WTF and following along for updates on Turkey Fest 2026 in Henrietta, Clay County. It's near Wichita Falls, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And you'll find links to Turkey Fest website and the NWTF in our video description here. And thank you for tuning into the Backwoods Obsessions podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, share this episode with as many people as you can so that more hunters can join the obsession, and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. And remember, we're here to build those traditions and live the hunt season by season. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Robby.
All right.
Oh yeah, it
Thanks,
was my
Robby.
pleasure. Yeah.
Appreciate